everybody. I would like to thank and welcome David Bourgoin from Essilor for sharing his experience for digital supply chain planning today. Hi, David.
Hi, Marin.
Thanks so much for joining me today. We're really excited to hear from you and your organization. So do you think, to start off, you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, your role as Global S&OP Supervisor, and then Essilor as a company?
Sure. Thank you, Marin, and hello, everybody. My name is David Bourgoin, and I am in charge of the monthly S&OP process for Essilor for 10 years now. Essilor is a world leader of ophthalmic lenses, and since end of 2018, Essilor merged with Luxottica, the world leader of luxury and sports eyewear. We are now the group Essilor-Luxottica. But before going into more detail, let me share this video introduction of the Essilor organization. Essilor's strategy is guided by our mission of improving lives by improving sight. Like seen in this short video, innovation and partnerships are the cornerstone of our growth. From a S&OP perspective, this means to be able to quickly simulate product phase in and phase out. Innovation gives us a bit more than 250 new products per year, and we invest every year more than $200 billion for the research and innovation. As well, we need to be agile, lean, and digital enough to integrate the new partnerships in our S&OP processes and in our tools. Since the last 5 years, we have integrated around 130 new partnerships around the world.
As you can see, I'm a loyal wearer of Essilor lenses myself, David. Do you think you could tell us a little bit more about Essilor's supply chain organization?
Definitely, Marin. Essilor has a complex distribution network with more than 700 stock locations. I will try to make it simple using the concept of route to market. This concept helps us to manage our end-to-end S&OP process. We have more than 3,000 possible routes to market within our organization. Each route starts with one of our 32 manufacturing plants, where we produce either finished or semi-finished lenses. The finished lenses are shipped to distribution center, and we have 14 major DCs worldwide. The semi-finished lenses are then shipped to one of our 490 RX labs, prescription labs, where they are finished based on our customer prescription and needs. The other end of the route to market is the market, composed of customers, opticians, retailers, and e-shop for e-commerce. We count more than 300,000 end customers located in more than 100 countries.
Wow, that really is an impressive route to market depiction. So what would you say your supply chain main challenges were during the pandemic, and what were their impacts on your supply chain?
Well, during the pandemic, our biggest challenge was the business continuity plan. So we had to adapt our supply chain to still deliver customers and minimize the impact. So to ensure the continuity of service, as soon as we have assessed the consequences of the measures taken in China, such as the lockdown and the Chinese New Year shutdown continuation in early 2020, we started to explore what could be the possible backup in terms of production. In our case, we moved some Chinese products to Laos and to some European plants. But the pandemic started to extend from China to Europe and later to the Americas. So what was transferred to Europe had to move elsewhere. So immediately, we looked at all potential backups and what could be launched as quick as possible in terms of alternatives production. Later, China finally reopened the production, but major markets, US and Europe, for instance, were running slow due to the different lockdowns. So we had to slow down the production pace in China. Actually, during the first months of the COVID crisis, we consistently had to give very precise instruction on production priorities, shipping priorities. So the goal with production restart was not to produce too much of the wrong, but not produce too much to the wrong inventory. This supply chain team was playing a key interface role between SCR customers, base plant, and partners. So we have consistently played with the route to market to adapt the distribution.
So seeing as you had to adapt to your production plans very quickly, what processes did you review or put in place during the crisis to have a more agile and resilient supply chain?
Well, that's a very good question, Marine. In a normal situation, we currently use QID Dynasys solutions at a technical level. But in such a case, with the different lockdowns worldwide, either for our markets, for factories, or for some customs, we had to move to more fast and agile simulation tools. So we decided to put in place shared indicators via Google Sheets. Our extended supply chain has been reduced to the ends of our routes, actually. So on one end, we have markets. Zones demands management team entered the volumes with different what-if scenario in several spreadsheets, with what if we lost 30% or 40% or even 50% of the sales versus 2019. On the other hand, we have the plants, and plant manager were asked to enter every Monday what production lines will be locked and which one can be reopened. So they enter numbers of days per week, possible lenses launched per day, number of operators available, stuff like this.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you've moved from a tactical level to a more operational level throughout all of these supply chain disruptions. So I can imagine your S&OP processes needed to also adapt during the pandemic?
Yes, so like I said before, our biggest challenge was the business continuity plan. Thus, to secure the service, we had to be very, very reactive. So we were managing the risk and the what-if scenario in real time, if I can say, in an operational way of planning. So our monthly S&OP turned into a weekly S&OP. This lasted 3 months, during which the Western countries were entering in lockdown, one after another, whereas the Eastern ones were coming back.
Okay, so like a lot of manufacturers, the standard S&OP processes needed to adapt to meet the needs of the pandemic. What would you say, how things are today, and how have they changed?
Well, I would say that when we came back to more stability, we moved back to our tactical planning S&OP with the QID Dynasys solutions. Today, we are still facing some challenges, for example, on raw materials. So this is something never encountered before at worldwide level. The worldwide market acceleration in early 2021 stressed all suppliers, and some couldn't accelerate as fast as needed. And even some suppliers were still on lockdown due to the COVID. So these difficult events allowed us to extend our S&OP with the material procurement department, which is now a strength for us.
Okay, so that means you've included sourcing and procurement departments within your global S&OP meetings?
Yes, definitely. This close collaboration with the sourcing and procurement department during the pandemic give us ideas to build stronger relationship to secure our supply chain. And soon, we now think about synergies with sourcing and procurement, and as well with the R&D to optimize our ecological impacts by recycling wastes.
Great. A lot of manufacturers have decided or are thinking about relocating part of their production post-pandemic. Where does Essilor stand with this? Are there any plans to relocate production?
So these are plans that are definitely in progress. Today, we are working on the midterm plan for budget preparation for the 2022 to 2025 period. So we are investing to increase capacities with several targets. Follow market growth, develop more agile production network, and of course, relocate as much as possible.
Great. Let's get back to digitalization. David, do you think you could tell me a little bit more about the digital transformation of Essilor?
Yes, sure, I would be happy to. So actually in my role, I'm more focused on the upstream part of the supply chain, the manufacturing part, actually. Today, we are very focused on the digitalization of the S&OP execution. We want to have a leaner, integrated, and CO2-friendly network. So this supposed common tools, processes, and the web accessible indicators. We have a project for having plants, RX labs, and any partnerships integrating in the same database to extend the supply chain executions. And also a second project is to control the distribution ecological footprint for our auto market. So we want to measure the environmental impact, in terms of CO2 when choosing a route to market. Another digitalization concerns our planning processes, training, and support. So with the pandemic, we are traveling less and less, of course, and a lot of people work from home. So before I was used to move 5 to 6 weeks a year in Asia or in US. So now, with the situation we are facing now, we have decided to accelerate the digitalization of our training documentation and to launch a classroom training platform.
That's a significant change from before. So as you said, a lot of people were and still are working from home today. What about e-commerce platforms? Does Essilor have a developed web platform? And if so, do you think you could tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, sure. So yes, so after speaking about supply chain, now I can say a few words on our marketing and R&D, where digitalization is most creative. Essilor is working on different digitalization programs. The first one is e-commerce. Since 2014, we develop our e-commerce platform, such as with iBuyDirect, by helping customers in their online choices. We develop capacities and competencies. We create brand.com online shops such as Ray-Ban.com. In fact, e-commerce is one of the key competitive advantages to widen our leadership. Another project is for eye care professionals and consumers. So we are developing a digital applications called Essilor Companion that facilitates and simplifies the sales and lens consultation process. And last but not least, Luxottica is closely working with Google to develop connecting eyewear, the smart glasses. I invite you to search about this new technology on the web.
That sounds great. So pretty soon I'll be able to order my new Essilor lenses from home. So from what I understood, you've been a QED Dynasys customer for almost 32 years now. What are the key benefits that you get from a digital supply chain planning solution today?
Yes, 32 years now, yes. Thanks to Precise. So, like I said before, we are building an end-to-end supply chain planning and execution. So, also to stimulate synergies with other departments such as marketing, sourcing, and procurement, we need a centralized, web-accessible database and tools. So, thanks to our collaborative platforms, all worldwide supply chain entities can connect, simulate, and talk to each other worldwide to build efficient master plans. Also, since the 10 past years working on the new DSCP platform, we have a more robust and reactive global S&OP. We moved from 10 factories in constrained capacity planning with 2 to 3 months to make decision to now 16 factories in a 3 weeks planning process. So we increased the scope and we save up to 2 months decision-making phase. And as well, in terms of inventory control, the QAD Dynasys solution allows us to save 0.2 months of coverage every year since the last 10 years, while improving our customer services. So this represents millions in stock and cash flow saved. Last but not least, we have accelerated the phase-in, phase-out process. So we can simulate now new product introduction up to 6 months in advance. Additionally, we can simulate manufacturing investments, plant closure, and flow change to validate the best possible scenarios.
That's incredible. I know you all moved to the QAD Dynasys Cloud in 2018. What would you say from your point of view and within your role at Essilor are the benefits of a cloud-based solution?
So with the QAD Dynasys Cloud 2018 release, we have a more fluid and quick centralized support. So this avoids stress for Asian and US S&OP administrators, so they don't have to wait for the French admin to wake up. So as well, it improves the calculation and data treatment. It's faster than with our previous on-premise solutions.
David, you also mentioned earlier that Essilor is working on relocation, CO2-friendly networks, and reducing ecological impacts. What about sustainability? Is that a strong initiative within the company? And if so, what have you put in place or are planning to put in place with regards to that?
Well, sustainability is definitely an important part of the company's strategy. Actually, our position as a global leader encourages to lead the way for sustainable development. We have seen that our customers' expectations about our performance on sustainability matters are higher than before, giving us a competitive advantage. So at the operation level, for a few years now, Essilor has committed to reduce its environment impact through 3 main pillars: energy, water, and waste. As you know, water is becoming scarce in many places around the globe. So we put emphasis on water reduction. And since 2015, we have succeeded in reducing the water consumption in our manufacturing process by close to 25%. We are now stepping into the effort of reduction of our waste and energy consumption. So regarding energy, we have many programs to reduce consumption in our processes. And in the waste front, swarf and materials consumptions are one of our main challenges. We put efforts on reducing the material consumption from the semi-finished to the end product. Also, we work with partners on how to reuse the swarf. We are closely working with the R&D teams on breakthrough technology for the long term. At S&OP process level, to meet with our roadmaps towards carbon neutrality, we will adapt to take into account the CO2 impact. So like I said previously, we will challenge our route to market on sourcing processes for a sustainability perspective.
Wow, thanks, David. Those are some really great initiatives for our planet. Do you have a few last words to conclude and about your vision of the future of digital supply chain planning for Essilor?
Sure, Marine. So I will do my best to answer this question. Working towards our mission of improving lives by improving sight encourages us to lead the way for a more digital, agile, and sustainable supply chain, of course. Digital, for me, actually, the merge with Luxottica, our extension for partnerships, the synergies with our other departments, forced us to have online tools and databases accessible from any place worldwide. We have to meet with our supply chain increasing scope while keeping reactivity, and as well with the COVID crisis, we understood how important it is to strengthen our supply chain collaboration internally, but as well externally. From an agile point of view, with the last events the world faced, I remember they were given boats stuck in the Suez Canal, the more numerous fires and storms the Earth had the past years, and the pandemics. So we need to be able to quickly run on a world basis what-if simulation processes to anticipate or to respond to those disruptive events. And the third point, the sustainability. After decades producing, consuming, traveling without looking forward to the planet's resources and environments, we are, and this is my point of view, we are liable for the new generation of reversing this trend. Global warming and planet resourcing management should now be the heart of our company's decision. We now need tools, processes, and again, what-if scenario to limit our ecological impacts and move towards carbon neutrality. And for me, this COVID crisis will certainly be a marker in our history to more responsible choices for new generation.
I certainly hope so too. Well, thank you so much, David, for sharing your Essilor experience, not only during the pandemic, but also your vision of future supply chain planning. It's digital, agile, connected, and of course, sustainable.
Thank you, Marie. It was a pleasure for me to interact with you today on those questions and challenges.
Thanks again so much, David. Take care.
Thanks, bye.